And welcome everyone to an NABC offseason chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Cuonzo Martin, head coach at Missouri State for the second time. It has been 13 years, if my math is correct, since he was last at Missouri State, and Missouri State was that launching pad to a number of high-profile jobs that you've held before. Back now at Missouri State. Why did you want to go back at this point in your life and your career?
Well, I thought it was a tremendous opportunity, first and foremost, but also grateful for the opportunity because those are things that you don't take for granted. So obviously you did something okay or special because they brought you back. But I mean, for me, just being around, in my opinion, wonderful people, relationships I've maintained for 13 plus years that I've built, and just feel like the time was right. The 2 years off for me was great, just to get balance and to regroup, because it felt like for so many years it's just you're going with boxing gloves on and track shoes on, just fighting and trying to find your way to be successful, but in the process of developing young men so they can have successful lives. So to have the 2 years off was great for me, and now to be back in it, it's been a lot of fun thus far.
You have a great perspective because the world has changed dramatically since you were last in the Missouri Valley, not just the makeup of the league, but all of college basketball. I mean, you were all over the country in high-profile openings from the Pac-12 to the SEC. How has this particular job changed in the last 13 years?
Well, I think for me, now one, when you're talking, now let me go back. I was on the committee when it was introduced to transfer portal and name, image, and like. So I was on the committee 4 or 5 years ago. And the thing I tried to say in terms of when I gave my 2 cents about the transfer portal, I said nothing wrong with a young man or a young lady having the right to do what they want to do. I just said we have to be careful because those are opportunities. When I started out with Coach Katie at Purdue University as a freshman, I didn't play right away. So now in those struggles of not playing right away, I could easily jump ship and say, let me go to another place. But because I decided to stay, I learned a lot of life lessons, a lot of values outside of the game of basketball. And I think that was the beauty about being under one umbrella, so to speak. I learned. Now, again, it's a different climate now. So what I was saying that if you're transferring, know why you're transferring, because you have to have the ability, though it might be hard, to look in the mirror and say, here's the reason why. Now, if it's all about money, that's your right too. But make sure you manage and balance that correctly so you can have some in the long run, because the last time I checked, there's still, 450 jobs in the NBA, so it's not like they added 300 more jobs. So you still have to do what you do on the wood in order to be successful, if that's your ultimate goal.
The job, though, in terms of, and this could be applied to any specific job, but the roster management, I would argue it's difficult everywhere, but it doesn't matter what level. I mean, look at some of these high-profile schools, whether it's Big Ten, SEC, and they literally are putting a roster together in May from top to bottom. So, it doesn't matter what level you're at. How has roster management changed because you've taken over many jobs here? How has that changed the most since your last head coaching job?
One of the things I've always taken pride in, if you're taking over a program and what it takes to take over and lead a program, but outside of those core values that you need to be successful in building the program, I think for me, with the new landscape, it's been a lot of fun. Now, again, I'm back into it, but this is the way I look at it. As a young man, you have the right after the next year to go somewhere else, after the next year to go somewhere else. Wherever you want, you can go to 4 or 5 different schools. That's your right. But make sure you get what you need to get out of the college experience. But also for me, this is the way I look at it. If I impact a young man in my program for 1 year, now again, mom and dad did what they need to do, but they passed the baton to me. But I do what I need to do, and I pass the baton to the world. I've done my job. And that's a successful young man because he was a part of my program. That's the way I look at it. I mean, you're not going to hold a guy back. If there's a better opportunity that he deems better, let him go. I mean, I wish him the best. It's about maintaining those relationships. I probably had I rarely think there's a guy that I lost in recruiting that I didn't have a relationship with. Not the hopes that he comes back to my program. I just built a relationship in recruiting him. Still, guys that was part of decision making when I was out, they would call me, ask my 2 cents. I would give my unbiased opinion. They make a decision. So it's really, that's what it's all about, man. Again, that's like I said to you before, Andy. If you truly care about young men and their success, it's going to take a lot out of you. It's going to take a toll on you, but that's probably a good thing.
During those 2 years, you're talking about balance, reset, get a chance to watch your son. He was at Purdue. You're around that program, good friends, Matt Painter. What'd you learn about yourself as a coach that you're now taking during that 2 years that you were off, that you're applying now back in the game?
A good question. A lot of things that you learn about yourself. One to find a peace of mind and just coach with joy and not put so much pressure on yourself. And for me, when I say pressure, not what pressure coming down of public opinion, social media, not that. It's just me being the best version of myself when I left East St. Louis at 18 in hopes of making my life better and ultimately making my mom's life better. That type of pressure, not so much of the world, because I'm not consumed with that piece, because you have to do what you have to do. And just being around, Purdue basketball program, one of the things I truly learned, and I saw this from Purdue a couple years back, I have to do a better job of delegating and trusting and delegating, let go. So if you have an offensive coordinator, let them do it. Defense, let them do their job and trust that, let go, and be the CEO of the company. I think I'm better served than doing that, because not that I didn't trust staffs before, it's just a matter of when you let go. My biggest thing I'm consumed with is the guys on my staff make sure they do everything in their power to love those young men that we coach. It can't be a relationship based on production. You have to love those guys on their bad days. They struggle in their classroom. Give everything you got to those guys. And in the end, when they put you in the casket, you're able to rest in peace.
The last two things I'm curious from you is, one, what did it mean to you as a former Purdue player and assistant to see Gene Katie sitting there at the Final Four, watching Purdue and his former player and assistant, Matt Painter, coach the Boilermakers at the Final Four?
Well, I think it was a true joy, because I had up close seats because my son was a walk-on the team. So I was up close in person. I spent, days with Coach. You see him all year because I was at games. But I think it was God's gift to Coach. Obviously, Payne and his staff did a tremendous job, so you don't want to take away from that. A phenomenal job in getting there and having success. But I think it was God's gift to Coach to allow him to see this and to be able to enjoy that, because he was a guy that worked so hard, put himself in position to have teams that were built on toughness, character, doing things the right way, and to see one of his former players do that for him, it's a tremendous honor. I felt joy, and I didn't have tears coming out of my eyes. Not that I'm afraid to cry, but I felt joy in seeing that for Coach and Matt and his staff, because of all the things that they've accomplished and achieved. But just to get that icing on the cake, and just came up a little bit short, but a phenomenal year.
And I'll tell you something, back to Missouri State, there's no question. We've seen this in the Valley. Indiana State had their run. Everyone sort of takes a turn at the top. So there's no question it can be your turn, whether it's next season, couple seasons. There's no reason why Missouri State can't have its turn near the top. How right am I on that?
I think you're correct, and that's the goal, to do it this year. I think we also in times where it used to be 3 years you build your program. We're not in those times anymore. So I think you build a foundation with structure, character, and I think for me, I've always fought for guys that had toughness. But I think the toughness for me nowadays is more the mental than the physical. You like to have both, but I'll take the mental now, just because of what young men and women endure nowadays via social media and the expectations. So I'm excited about it. We have a great team, a great staff, and I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Cuonzo.
Thank you.